What's going on, nation? It's time for us to review another album, and this album is going to be Britney Spears. No. If you thought I was actually going to review that pile of crap, you're an idiot. Everybody lies. Hugh Laurie, Let Them Talk. You could probably tell by the signature phrase that this was going to be what I was going to talk about today. Now, this is a blues-oriented release that the House star just released here in America this past Tuesday. However, this is an album that's been out over in the UK and other areas of the world for about 3 to 4 months now. In fact, since May. And my only question to this is, what the fuck? You mean we couldn't handle it for 4 months? We had to actually sit here and wait for 4 months? Well, I'll give Hugh and everybody that made this decision one thing. It was certainly worth the wait. Now, I'm not typically the type of person to really review blues or jazz or anything like that. In fact, for the most part, the only people that I've really touched base on are Joe Bonamassa and Black Country Communion, and that's mainly because it's really got a lot of elements in rock and somewhat metal, considering Bonamassa's just a guitar beast. With Hugh, it's a little bit different. He has actually more of a penchant toward the piano, but also plays a number of guitars and likes playing guitar. In fact, he said, and I quote, "I like the piano more simply because it doesn't go anywhere and I like to sit down." Now, this is an album that's laced with multiple songs that he has kind of grown to treasure throughout the years. Whenever it comes to original material, there's nothing really too much to speak about. However, it's all renditions of some of the favorite songs from his either youth to his adolescence to his journey through music and through acting. In fact, if you remember from the House television show itself, there are many, many songs in there that you would really imagine that he would want to play here or something like that. Whether it be the rock anthems such as Van Halen, which you saw in Season 4, or the beginnings of St. James Infirmary, which is track 1 off of this album, which you actually saw in Season 5, along with Lucas, who was his private investigator. This is an album that has a lot of character to it, and he openly states in the liner notes that he's not a man who lived through the 1890s. He's not somebody that can really speak about, with that same heart, drive, desire, passion, and truthfulness, about the elements of being either on a plantation or writing these songs or really having the same character as those who did write these songs whenever he represents them here. These are songs that he has loved throughout his life that he wants to represent. And the perfect example of that is Swanee River. Swanee River is actually a song that he saw in his very first piano booklet that his teacher refused to allow him to play, considering it was one of those old, as they call them, Negro songs. Apparently, whenever he was taking the piano classes, she felt that that was something that was completely unnecessary. This is written with a lot of different elements of the blues, whether they be your standard "I got the blues," or going into a little bit more of a different topic, such as, for example, "The Whale Has Swallowed Me," and the like, where it's a little bit more of a biblical idea. It's the Battle of Jericho is another great example of that as well. And this is a nice little combination. It almost seems like something that I would not want to touch, considering any type of speak of religion or anything along those lines tends to make me cringe a little bit. Either that or launches me into a house-like rant about either the downsides or upsides of whatever topic may come my way. These are actually very nicely constructed and very well represented, so it's something that if it's in a song format, oftentimes it's very, very difficult to really turn away from it, especially if it's Hugh Laurie, especially if it's him doing it in the blues style, and especially if the infection of the music really gets into your soul. That's something that happens on this album. It's a very diverse little cup of tea that really spans many different generations and many different styles of the blues, and even invites in a host of guest musicians to kind of give him a hand, including a couple of guest vocalists such as Dr. John. Dr. John's one that really sticks out to me. And that's something that also really shows that his star caliber is not just something that can be in film, but also occurs in music to the point where other people, including these bigger name stars, do take notice and they are willing to work with him. That's something that's really cool about this. It's not just an album where you're going to hear Hugh Laurie's personal take on the blues and the world. He's going to have help, and together they were able to forge a pretty damn solid record. Is this something that's going to take the American world afire and have it catch flame and maybe launch a secondary blues movement. No, he's just the guy who plays a doctor on a television show. People are going to much rather want to hear him be a sarcastic asshole than have him play a guitar and, sing about the blues. That's just common fact, unfortunately. The masses are, unfortunately, a very, very fickle race. But I think there's a lot of people out there that could get a lot from listening to this album, and I believe that if you're a House fan, this is kind of a must-buy, especially if your idol from the show is Dr. House himself. Overall, this is an album that I can't really give a score to. The reason why is because it's a little bit out of my element, and number two, I am slightly biased because Hugh Laurie is one of my personal heroes. So I'm actually going to abstain from giving a numerical judgment on this particular record, but instead what I am going to say is that if you like something that's outside of the box, if you enjoy the blues or jazz in any regard, and if you really want to hear something that just is kind of interesting, that kind of will take your soul on a different journey than what you're used to, give this a shot. I think you might actually find a lot that you like about it. Till then, idiots, to the next review. Cover Killer Nation saying, I don't got the blues, but just let them talk. And I just dropped the album. I lose.